It's made of wood and wire.
The late Johnny Cash singing Mercy Seat. Here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. We're broadcasting on over 800 stations, Pacific NPR, Low Power FM, college and community radio stations, public access TV, PBS TV stations, and both TV satellite networks, Dish Network Channel 9415, Free Speech TV, 9410 Link TV, and Direct TV Channel 375. And we're video and audio broadcasting at democracynow.org. Our transcripts are available there for you to send on, for you to read, to pass on. I'm Mimi Goodman with Sharif Abdel-Qadir. Sharif?
We turn now to a Democracy Now! National broadcast exclusive. Greg and Janet Kiesling are the parents of Chancellor Kiesling, a U.S. soldier who took his own life on June 19th of this year. Chancellor was on his second duty of tour in Iraq. During his first deployment, he suffered mental health issues so severe he was placed on suicide watch. After getting back to the United States, Chancellor had turned down a bonus offer to return to Iraq in the hopes he wouldn't be redeployed. But he was called back in May. 1 month later, he took his own life.
Since Chancellor's death, Greg and Janet Kiesling have yet to receive a letter of condolence from President Obama. After making inquiries, they discovered this was not because of an oversight. Instead, it's because of a long-standing U.S. policy to deny presidential condolence letters to the families of soldiers who've committed suicide. Greg and Janet Kiesling join us now from Indianapolis, where they live. This is the first time they're sharing their story in a national broadcast. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Greg, let me go first to Janet. Tell us about your son. Tell us about Chancellor. Tell us why he joined the military, his first tour of duty, and then ultimately deciding to go back or being called back.
Chancellor recruited right out of high school, and this was something he was passionate about, joining the military. I wanted him to go to college, but he said that he wanted to be a soldier. So he was 18 years old when he joined the Army. He left home in October for his basic training, and then was stationed in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He did very well as a young soldier, acclimated, made friends quickly, enjoyed his training, and then came his first deployment, which we went to visit him. He took off to Iraq, did fairly well until he had a little bit of hitches, and but served his time. We were always told that he was an absolutely great soldier, very giving, great personality, punctuality, so we were quite proud of him.
Yes, we were very proud of his service to our country. We had, doubts about him joining, really grave doubts when the war broke out in 2003, when many of us were trying to retreat. Chancey decided, this is my duty. In fact, he said to his sister, we must have a military and somebody's got to be in it. And I decided I could support that. But once he did his first tour, and he was married at the time, and his marriage did not go very well. His marriage broke up during that deployment. And during the second deployment, he also had problems again, and that's what ultimately happened.
Now, explain the part where he was offered a bonus to return, but decided not to because he didn't want to go back to Iraq.
Well, when you leave the enlisted Army and you're moving to the reserves, and I think they needed soldiers, so they were offering soldiers a bonus to be able to return back to Iraq at an earlier date. And so he knew he had some mental health issues. He was undergoing treatment at the VA, and he said that he turned down this bonus. It prevented them from deploying him for 2 years. And he felt he would not get deployed. In fact, we sat down as a family and we said, President Obama is going to be reelected, and President Obama will end this war, and you won't have to go. But when he did get called up, we sat down and we talked all the different options. We're dual citizens, and we actually talked about Chancey going to Jamaica to stay there. But he looked at us and said, Dad, I'm an American too. I'm a soldier. This is my duty. I can handle it. I will go. And sadly, for us as a family, it was not the right decision. And we have learned that during his enlisted time, the mental health issues that he faced never reached to his reserve unit. There's actually a law that prevents mental health issues that occur during your enlisted time from passing over to the reserves. And it's a law that comes from our Vietnam days when reservists were not used in war the way we've used them this time. And I think that's one of the messages we hope gets out, that we look at how mental health issues get transferred to the Guard and the reserve units as these soldiers are deployed over and over and over again.
Well, talk about that, because in 2006, and on his first tour in Iraq, he was actually placed on a suicide watch. His ammunition was taken away for a week. So you're saying that information was not available to his superiors or to anyone in the military on his second deployment?
No, no. There is actually a law that prevents that information from passing through. We've had a 15-6, what is called a 15-6 investigation by the military into our son's death, and they've confirmed that. With our congressional help, we have asked for for a review with General Casey, and they've answered our questions back, and they've confirmed that there is a law that prevents that information from passing from the enlisted to the reserves. So his commander in Iraq, he's with the 961st Engineering Brigade, and his commander had no idea that he had mental health. It was incumbent upon him, the soldier, to share it. And I think that's very difficult to put a soldier in that type of situation. I mean, being a military person, you're tough. And our son wanted to be tough, and he wanted to be a good soldier.
Now, in 2009, just hours before he ended up taking his own life, he sent both of you an email. Can you talk about what he said in that, and then you spoke with him after reading that email?
Janet.
I spoke to Chancellor the night before he died for about 4 minutes, and as always, he wore a really tough exterior, because even after conversations with some of the soldiers after he died, no one saw that he was in any type of distress or trouble. I know they say he was sleeping, he was happy that morning, he was singing. But what he did tell me that night is that he was going to have a very long, difficult day. His conversation was quite brief. Normally he would say that he loves me and he would say goodbye, but this time he simply hung up. I had the feeling that something was definitely bothering him more than the norm. And the next thing we knew, they were at our door saying that he had passed away.
Where was he?
But nobody saw.
He was at Camp Stryker in Baghdad.
And what did they explain to you? What happened?
That he had gone to a latrine and locked himself in the latrine and took his own life with his M4.
Did you try to reach anyone in Iraq, his superiors, a medical officer or a chaplain or anything like that?
We did not. This happened 11 or 12 hours before when we had this email. It's leading up into our night. My wife talked to Chancey, quite a bit, and we really thought, we knew he'd had a fight with his girlfriend. We knew he was a bit distraught over that and the difficulty of trying to run his life from Iraq, his civilian life back here. And but we had spoken to him, and Janet especially had done a lot of talking, and we thought he was going to the chaplain. So as its morning is coming in Baghdad, we thought that he was going to go see the chaplain. But he did make a few more phone calls and could not reach the people he was trying to reach. And my wife had made a strong attempt to go to the home of the girlfriend to get her, please talk to him, because he doesn't sound good. And they found his body at 8:31 a.m. Baghdad time, and the email came that he wanted so bad, and it came at about 8:58 or so Baghdad time, so just a little bit too late. And we did not know. We know you go to the Red Cross. We know there's Military One Source. We know there's these things to do. We did not know that we had the time to do that. We also thought that we had talked him through. We never thought this would happen. And
Greg,
it's one of those tragedies.
in the email he sent you, did he say he wanted to commit suicide?
Yes, he did.
And
Yes, he did.
And then you talked to him, Janet, after that?
Yes, that email came a couple of days before he died.
No, it was 12 hours.
12 hours before he died?
12, 13 hours before he died.
But we spoke to him. I did several texts, emails, phone conversations, trying to tell him, you know, so many people loved him, and he should hang in there. We talked about the chaplain, and he's the one who brought it up to me. He said, I'm going to go see the chaplain. And I said, I think that's a wonderful idea.